Marcus and Malik were twins who had always been close, not only because they shared the same face but because they shared the same dreams. They had grown up in a small town where everyone knew everyone, and most people knew that the twins were respectful, kind, and full of energy. When their father got a new job, the family had to move to a different city. For the twins, it meant starting over: new school, new neighborhood, new faces everywhere. They were nervous, but also hopeful. They wanted to make friends, do well in school, and maybe even join a sports team together. The first day at their new school was a mix of excitement and unease. The classrooms were bigger, the hallways noisier, and the students less familiar. Marcus was the more talkative twin, always ready to smile and say hello, while Malik was quieter, watching people carefully before opening up. Their teachers introduced them to the class, and a few kids smiled politely. At lunch, they sat together at the corner of a long table, trying not to stand out too much. But it was almost impossible not to stand out. The twins were new, they looked different, and they carried themselves with a kind of quiet confidence. Some students were curious, asking where they came from, what sports they liked, or what subjects they were good at. Others simply ignored them. But in one corner of the cafeteria, a group of boys leaned back in their chairs, watching the twins with narrowed eyes. They whispered and laughed among themselves, and it wasn't hard to guess the whispers were not friendly. That group quickly became a problem. Over the next few weeks, Marcus and Malik started to notice that wherever they went, those same boys seemed to appear. At first it was just looks, long stares meant to make them uncomfortable. Then it became small comments in the hallway, murmured words that were just loud enough to hear but quiet enough that teachers didn't notice. The comments carried a sting, but Marcus would always shake his head and remind Malik of what their parents had taught them: don't let anyone decide who you are. Walk with dignity. Malik would nod, though sometimes his hands tightened into fists when the insults grew bolder. He wanted to respond, but he knew his brother was right. They had been trained for years in martial arts, not only in kicks and punches but in patience, discipline, and control. Their sensei had repeated the lesson over and over: the strongest fighter is not the one who throws the first punch but the one who knows when not to. At home, life was calm. Their mother worked long hours at a local clinic, and their father's new job kept him busy, but every evening the family gathered around the table for dinner. Their parents encouraged them to stay focused on school and reminded them that moving to a new place was always hard at first. Marcus and Malik didn't mention the bullies much. They didn't want to worry their parents, and besides, they thought they could handle it. Still, the tension followed them day after day. In gym class, when the boys saw the twins run laps with ease, they muttered things about how they thought they were better than everyone else. In the locker room, they made jokes behind their backs. On the walk home, the group sometimes followed at a distance, tossing little pebbles or making noises to get their attention. Marcus tried to ignore it completely, keeping his eyes forward, but Malik's patience was tested more and more. One afternoon, as the twins left school, one of the bullies stepped into their path. He was taller, with a smirk that showed he was used to getting what he wanted. "Hey, twins," he said, stretching the word out like an insult. "Where do you think you're going? You don't belong here." His friends laughed behind him. Marcus simply said, "We're going home." He kept his voice even, not giving them the reaction they wanted. He gently nudged Malik's arm, signaling him to stay calm. The bullies moved aside but kept jeering as the twins walked away. It wasn't the first time, and it wouldn't be the last. As days passed, the harassment grew. The bullies began spreading stories around school, saying the twins thought they were too tough or too proud. None of it was true, but gossip traveled fast. Soon, people looked at Marcus and Malik with curiosity, wondering what the rumors were about. The twins didn't try to defend themselves with words, they just focused on their studies, turning in homework on time and listening carefully in class. But whispers followed them everywhere. One evening, after another long day of holding back frustration, Malik let out a sigh as they walked into their small shared room. I don't get it, he said. We didn't do anything to them. Why do they keep pushing us? Marcus leaned back on his bed. Because they don't know us. They only see what they want to see. But we know who we are, and that's what matters. Don't give them the power to change that. Malik nodded slowly. He knew his brother was right, but it wasn't easy. Every time the bullies shoved him in the hallway or muttered insults, he could feel the strength inside him ready to react. His training had built not only muscles but also instincts, fast reflexes that were hard to hold back. Their martial arts practice had been a part of their lives since they were 6 years old. Their father had signed them up because he wanted them to grow up with discipline and confidence. Over the years, they had earned belts one after another, until they both held black belts, a symbol of years of hard work and perseverance. But more important than the belt was the philosophy behind it. Their sensei always reminded them, the black belt is not a weapon. It is a responsibility. The twins carried that responsibility with them, even when others underestimated them. They knew their strength, and that knowledge gave them calmness. But the bullies had no idea. To them, Marcus and Malik were just quiet new kids who didn't fight back. The bullies mistook patience for weakness, and every day, they became more confident in their behavior. The turning point came one Friday afternoon. The group of boys cornered Marcus and Malik near the edge of the school grounds. There were no teachers around, only a few students heading home in the distance. The leader of the group crossed his arms and sneered. You think you're better than us, don't you? Always walking around like you don't hear us. Marcus met his eyes calmly. We don't think we're better than anyone. We just don't want trouble. The boy's smirk widened. Too late for that. After school Monday, at the park, don't run. Everyone's gonna be there. His friends snickered, and before Marcus or Malik could answer, the group walked off, leaving behind the challenge hanging heavy in the air. That night, the twins sat in their room in silence. Malik finally asked, What do we do? Marcus looked thoughtful. We do what we've always done. We stay calm, we defend ourselves if we have to, and we don't let them control us. They don't know who we really are. They'll find out soon enough. Malik felt a spark of determination rise in his chest. For the first time, he wasn't afraid of what was coming. The bullies had no idea that the quiet twins they mocked every day were trained fighters, not in anger, but in skill, discipline, and honor. The weekend after the challenge felt unusually long for Marcus and Malik. Saturday morning came with sunshine and the sound of children playing outside, but the twins stayed indoors, quietly thinking about what had happened on Friday. Malik paced the room, his hands tucked in his pockets, while Marcus sat at the desk with a notebook open, pretending to study but not really reading the words. The thought of the bullies waiting for them at the park kept circling in their minds. Malik finally broke the silence. Do you think they'll really show up? Marcus nodded slowly. They will. They've been waiting for something like this. They want an audience, and they'll get one. Malik frowned. Then what do we do? We can't just fight them. Marcus looked at his brother with calm eyes. We don't fight unless we have to. You know that. But we can't run either. If we don't go, they'll keep bothering us. If we go, we'll show them who we are, not by hurting them, but by proving we won't be pushed around. Their father noticed their quietness that evening. At dinner, he asked, Everything all right at school? The twins exchanged quick glances, not sure if they should tell him. Malik started to speak, but Marcus gave a small shake of his head. They didn't want to worry their parents, especially after the stress of moving and adjusting to a new job. So they simply said, Yes, everything's fine. But in their room that night, Malik admitted, Sometimes I think we should tell Dad. He'd know what to do. Marcus thought for a moment before replying. Dad would probably go to the school and make it official. But then the bullies would only get angrier. I think this is something we have to face ourselves. Remember what Sensei always said, self-defense is about standing strong when no one else can do it for you. Sunday came and went with the same heavy silence. They practiced a few martial arts drills in their room to clear their minds. The familiar motions of blocking, stepping, and breathing calmed them. By the end of the night, both brothers felt ready, not because they wanted a fight, but because they knew they could handle themselves if anything happened. Monday morning arrived like a storm. Whispers filled the hallways before the first class even began. The twins are gonna be at the park today, one boy muttered to his friend. Yeah, the guys challenged them. Everyone's talking about it. The story spread faster than a fire, and soon it seemed the entire school knew about the planned confrontation. Marcus and Malik heard the whispers but stayed focused. They walked from class to class with the same calm steps, their books neatly stacked in their arms. During lunch, the bullies made their presence known again. They passed by the twins' table, smirking, and one of them said, "Hope you're ready for after school. Don't run away." Their friends laughed loudly, making sure others could hear. Malik clenched his jaw, but Marcus stayed composed. He looked at his brother and said quietly, "Let them talk. Words don't change who we are." When the final bell rang, the twins packed their bags and walked out of the school building. They could feel eyes following them, students whispering and nudging each other as they left. A trail of kids slowly formed behind them, heading toward the park. It seemed almost like a parade, except the reason was anything but festive. The park was a short walk from school, with a wide field, a few benches, and a basketball court where older kids often hung out. When Marcus and Malik arrived, the bullies were already there, leaning against the fence with smug grins. More and more students gathered around, forming a circle. The air buzzed with anticipation, like everyone was waiting for a show. The leader of the bullies stepped forward, arms crossed. Well, well. You actually came. I thought you'd be too scared." His friends chuckled behind him. Marcus stood calmly, his expression steady. "We're not scared. But we didn't come here to fight. We just came to make it clear we're not afraid of you, and we won't be pushed around anymore." The leader sneered. "Talk is cheap. Let's see what you can do." He shoved Marcus hard in the chest, trying to provoke him. Marcus took a step back but didn't lose his balance. He didn't raise his fists. Instead, he straightened his shoulders and looked directly at the boy. "I'm not here to fight you. But if you attack us, we'll defend ourselves." The crowd fell into a tense silence. Everyone was waiting for the next move. Malik could feel his heart pounding, but his training kept him grounded. His breathing stayed steady, his stance relaxed but ready. The leader didn't like the lack of reaction. Anger flickered in his eyes, and he swung a punch at Marcus. Without hesitation, Marcus raised his arm and blocked the strike, moving smoothly as if it were second nature. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Before the bully could swing again, Marcus stepped aside, guiding the boy's momentum away. The leader stumbled, catching himself before falling, his face turning red. Another bully rushed forward, aiming a shove at Malik. Malik shifted his weight, deflected the push with a calm motion, and the boy stumbled forward, nearly falling onto the grass. More gasps and whispers filled the air. The twins hadn't thrown a single punch, yet they stood untouched, while the bullies looked clumsy and unbalanced. The leader tried again, this time with more fury. He charged at Marcus with both fists raised, but Marcus sidestepped gracefully, using a simple redirecting move that caused the boy to trip slightly over his own feet. The crowd couldn't hold back anymore. Some kids laughed, others whispered in awe. "Did you see that? They didn't even hit him. They just moved." The bullies regrouped, embarrassed but unwilling to give up. "What are you, some kind of fighters?" one of them spat. Malik looked him in the eyes and replied calmly, "We know how to defend ourselves. That's all you need to know." For a moment, No one moved. The bullies stood breathing heavily, while the twins stood calm, their clothes neat, their breathing steady. It was a picture of contrast: rage on one side, composure on the other. Finally, the leader muttered something under his breath and motioned for his friends to leave. They walked off, trying to hide their frustration. The crowd slowly began to disperse, still buzzing with excitement over what they had just witnessed. Some students looked at the twins with new respect, while others whispered in amazement, already retelling the story as if it were legend. Marcus and Malik picked up their bags and began the walk home. Malik finally allowed himself a small smile. "You were right," he said. "We didn't have to fight. We just had to show them we wouldn't break." Marcus smiled back, a glimmer of pride in his eyes. "That's the power of discipline. We don't need to hurt anyone to prove our strength. They know now." That evening, as the sun set and painted the sky with orange light, the twins felt lighter. The challenge they had been dreading was behind them, and they had faced it with honor. The bullies hadn't been defeated with fists but with calmness, skill, and dignity. And though they knew the story at school was only just beginning, Marcus and Malik understood something important: true strength is not about fighting, it's about control. The next few days at school felt different for Marcus and Malik. Ever since the scene at the park, students whispered about them in the hallways. Some kids stared at them with wide eyes, as if they were superheroes, while others looked at them with curiosity, trying to figure out how two quiet twins had managed to stop the bullies without even fighting back. The story spread quickly, and like all stories, it grew bigger with every retelling. Some students said Marcus had caught a punch in mid-air. Others claimed Malik had knocked a boy down with just one move. The twins smiled quietly when they overheard the tales, knowing the truth was much simpler: they had only defended themselves, nothing more. But the change in how people saw them was clear. At lunch, students who had never spoken to them before began sitting closer. A boy from their math class asked Marcus if he could teach him that blocking move. A girl in their science class asked Malik if the stories were true. The twins stayed humble. They answered politely but never bragged. Marcus would usually say, "We just practice self-defense, that's all." Malik added, "It's about discipline, not fighting." Not everyone admired them, though. The bullies who had been embarrassed at the park now walked around with tense shoulders and lowered voices. They avoided direct confrontation, but the shame still burned in them. Their leader, especially, couldn't forget how easily Marcus had stepped aside and made him look foolish. He muttered to his friends in secret corners, "This isn't over." The tension remained like a shadow. Some students hoped for another showdown, curious to see what else the twins could do. Others were inspired, whispering about how calmness could be stronger than anger. Teachers, too, had started noticing. One gym teacher watched as Marcus and Malik ran laps and commented quietly to another teacher, "Those boys carry themselves differently. There's discipline there." One afternoon in gym class, something unexpected happened. The coach announced that the class would be practicing simple sparring exercises. Students would pair up and learn how to move their feet and defend lightly. The room buzzed with excitement. When the twins were paired together, many students immediately turned to watch. Everyone expected something dramatic. Marcus and Malik faced each other on the mat. Their movements were smooth, controlled, almost like a dance. They didn't try to overpower each other, instead, they demonstrated balance, timing, and precision. Every block was gentle, every strike controlled. When Marcus stepped forward with a mock punch, Malik deflected it softly, his eyes calm. When Malik moved in with a kick, Marcus shifted and countered without aggression. The room grew quiet as the students realized they were watching something different from what they imagined. It wasn't about strength, it was about mastery. Even the coach paused, his whistle hanging around his neck unused. When the exercise ended, he nodded in approval. "That," he said, loud enough for the whole class to hear, "is what control looks like. Most of you think fighting is about who hits harder. These two show it's about who can stay calm." After class, a few students approached the twins, asking if they could teach them more. Marcus and Malik exchanged glances. They weren't used to attention like this. But instead of showing off, Marcus smiled and said, "It's not about special tricks. It's about practicing little by little, every day. Anyone can learn it if they have patience." That answer made some students respect them even more. It wasn't just skill, it was their humility that impressed people. But the bullies didn't share that admiration. Watching from the side, they grew more restless. Their leader clenched his fists, muttering, "They're making us look weak. Everyone thinks they're heroes now." His friends tried to reassure him, but deep inside, they were afraid of the twins too. They had seen firsthand how easily Marcus and Malik could defend themselves without breaking a sweat. Later that week, a small group of kids gathered near the basketball court after school. The twins had been invited by a few classmates who wanted to see more of their skills. At first, Marcus hesitated. He didn't want to turn their training into a performance, but Malik encouraged him. "If it helps them understand discipline, maybe it's a good thing." So the twins demonstrated a few simple moves: how to block safely, how to stand firmly, how to breathe deeply before reacting. The crowd clapped and cheered, not because of flashy flips or kicks, but because the twins made even simple movements look powerful. Suddenly, the bullies appeared at the edge of the court. The laughter and chatter fell quiet. The leader stepped forward, his eyes burning with pride and frustration. "What is this, your little show? Teaching everyone how great you are?" Marcus looked at him calmly. "No. We're just sharing what we know. That's all." The leader sneered. "You think you're better than us, don't you?" Malik shook his head. "No. We don't think we're better than anyone. But we won't let you scare us, and we won't be silent when others are watching." The crowd murmured. For a moment, it felt like the tension would break into chaos. But Marcus raised his hand slightly, signaling calm. He turned to the students watching and said, "We don't need to fight. Fighting doesn't solve anything. What matters is learning control, respecting yourself, and respecting others." The leader laughed bitterly, but he didn't step forward. The crowd's eyes were on him now, waiting to see if he'd challenge the twins again. Instead, he muttered something under his breath and walked away, his friends following reluctantly. That night, Marcus and Malik sat by their window, looking out at the stars. Malik finally spoke. "Do you think this is over?" Marcus shook his head. "Not yet. But it's changing. People are starting to see the truth. That's enough for now." Malik leaned back in his chair, thoughtful. "It feels strange. We came here just wanting to fit in. Now everyone sees us as something more." Marcus smiled faintly. "Sometimes we don't choose how people see us. But we can choose how we act. That's what matters." As the days passed, the twins found themselves becoming examples without meaning to. Students asked for advice, teachers pointed to their patience as something to learn from, and even strangers in the neighborhood began to greet them with respect. Yet through it all, Marcus and Malik remained the same: quiet, disciplined, and humble. They knew true strength wasn't about being feared or admired. It was about standing firm in who you are, no matter who tries to push you down. Still, the memory of the bullies lingered. The leader's eyes, filled with bitterness, left a mark. Marcus knew that pride could make someone dangerous, and Malik felt the same. Though they hoped the trouble had ended, deep inside, they prepared themselves for whatever might come next. The week after the basketball court incident brought even more changes for Marcus and Malik. The quiet twins who once tried to blend in were now noticed everywhere they went. Students waved at them in the hallways, some asked to sit with them at lunch, and a few even stopped them between classes to ask for advice. It was a strange feeling. They had never wanted attention, yet now they found themselves in the center of it. Marcus handled it with ease, answering questions politely and always reminding others that what mattered most was patience and discipline. Malik, though quieter, began to open up more, especially when students asked about their training. He explained how martial arts wasn't just about fighting but about self-control. If you let anger control you, he said once, you lose before the fight even begins. The words stuck with those who listened. But not everyone liked this new reputation. The bullies who had once felt untouchable now walked with a heavy sense of embarrassment. Their leader in particular avoided the twins, but his pride was wounded. He couldn't stand how the story had flipped. A few weeks ago, people had laughed at the twins, now people laughed at him. Each day that passed without him regaining his power felt like a loss he couldn't bear. He began whispering to his friends again, plotting in quiet corners. We have to do something, he muttered one afternoon. We can't let them walk around like kings. His friends nodded but without much enthusiasm. They had seen what the twins could do. None of them wanted another public humiliation. But the leader's pride refused to let go. Meanwhile, the twins were invited by their gym teacher to help demonstrate basic moves in class. The teacher explained to the students that Marcus and Malik had something valuable to share, the ability to remain calm under pressure. The twins felt nervous standing in front of their classmates, but once they began moving, their confidence showed. They demonstrated simple stances, basic blocks, and how to use breathing to stay steady. Students clapped when the short session ended, and the teacher said proudly, "You see? Strength is not always loud. Sometimes it's quiet and steady, like these two boys have shown you." For Marcus and Malik, it was a proud moment. They didn't brag or smile too widely, but deep inside they felt good knowing they were making a difference. But just as things were starting to feel brighter, the shadows of resentment grew. One Friday afternoon, as the twins left school, they noticed the leader of the bullies waiting near the gate. His expression was serious, his fists clenched at his sides. He wasn't alone, two of his closest friends stood behind him. Marcus and Malik exchanged a glance, instantly alert but calm. The leader stepped forward. "You think you've won, don't you?" he said. His voice was low but firm. "Everyone looks at you like you're some kind of heroes. But this isn't over. You embarrassed me in front of everyone. I'm not letting that go." Marcus met his gaze steadily. "We don't want to embarrass anyone. We just want peace." The leader sneered. "Peace? You made us look weak. You ruined everything. If you think I'm just going to walk away, you're wrong." Malik's voice was calm but firm. "We didn't ruin anything. You chose to push us. We only defended ourselves. You can let this go, or you can make it worse for yourself." The crowd that had started to gather grew tense. Students whispered, wondering if another fight would break out. But Marcus raised his voice so everyone could hear. "We don't need to fight. Fighting doesn't solve anything. But we will defend ourselves if we have to." For a long moment, the leader stood frozen, his pride battling with his fear. His fists shook, but his eyes betrayed his doubt. He remembered too clearly how easily Marcus and Malik had handled him before. At last, he spat out a curse under his breath and stormed away, his friends trailing behind him. The students around the gate let out a collective sigh of relief. Some clapped quietly, others shook their heads in amazement. Once again, the twins had stood their ground without raising a fist. That evening, Marcus and Malik walked home in silence, the tension of the moment still hanging heavy. Malik finally said, "I don't think he'll stop." Marcus nodded slowly. "Maybe not. But the more he tries, the more everyone sees the truth. That's enough." Over the weekend, the twins spent extra time training in their backyard. Their father noticed and asked with a smile, "Why the sudden dedication?" Marcus answered simply, "We just want to stay sharp." Their father nodded, satisfied, not pressing for details. When Monday came, the atmosphere at school had shifted again. Students spoke more openly about the twins, some admiring, some curious. A few even asked if they could join them in practicing after school. The twins considered it carefully. At first, they thought it might draw too much attention, but then Marcus said, if they really want to learn, maybe it's a good thing. We can show them what discipline looks like. So that afternoon, a small group gathered in the park. Marcus and Malik demonstrated stretches, basic stances, and simple blocks. They explained the importance of respect, breathing, and focus. The students who joined were eager, following every instruction with wide eyes. It felt different this time, not like a performance, but like teaching. Marcus and Malik realized they were giving others the same lessons that had shaped their own lives. And though they hadn't planned it, they had become leaders in their own quiet way. But in the shadows, the leader of the bullies watched. His anger only grew. The sight of his classmates admiring the twins made him burn inside. He clenched his fists and muttered, "They won't always be in control. I'll find a way." As the weeks passed, Marcus and Malik's lives slowly found a rhythm. The noise around their reputation at school didn't disappear, but it began to settle into something steadier. Students still whispered about them, but the whispers were less about shock and more about respect. Teachers looked at them with quiet approval, noticing how they carried themselves with responsibility. Even in the neighborhood, people started to recognize the twins when they walked by, smiling and greeting them. But one person still carried bitterness: the leader of the bullies. His pride had been broken again and again, and though he no longer tried to provoke the twins in public, he wasn't ready to let go. He felt smaller every time he saw people look up to Marcus and Malik. In his mind, he replayed the humiliating moments, the block at the park, the calm words at the school gate, the respect they earned in gym class. His anger grew heavy, and it clouded his judgment. One Friday evening, when most students were already heading home, he gathered his two closest friends. "We're going to end this," he said. "Not in front of everyone this time. Just us. No audience." "They won't be so calm then." His friends hesitated, but his determination pulled them along. That same evening, Marcus and Malik left the library later than usual. They had stayed behind to finish a group project. As they walked down the quiet street toward home, the leader and his two friends stepped out from behind the corner. The air grew tense. Malik instantly recognized the look in their eyes. He whispered softly to Marcus, "It's not over. They want to try again." Marcus nodded. His voice stayed calm. "Then we do what we've always done." The leader stepped forward, his voice low and filled with resentment. "You think you're better than me, don't you? Always calm, always pretending you're stronger. Tonight, it's just us. No crowd. Let's see how long you stay quiet now." Marcus answered firmly, "We don't think we're better than you. We've never said that. But if you try to hurt us, we'll defend ourselves." For a moment, there was silence. Then the leader lunged forward, his fists swinging wildly. Marcus didn't panic. He stepped aside, blocking the punch smoothly, guiding it away just as he had done before. The leader stumbled forward, his own momentum carrying him off balance. One of the other boys tried to grab Malik, but Malik shifted quickly, twisting free and stepping back with calm precision. His movements were fluid, controlled, never aggressive. The third boy hesitated, unsure if he wanted to join in after seeing his friends fail so easily. The fight that the leader had imagined never truly began. Each attack met with nothing but calm redirection, each attempt falling apart as Marcus and Malik moved like water, flowing and steady. No strikes, no kicks, no anger, just defense. Finally, the leader froze, breathing heavily. His friends looked at him nervously. He realized he couldn't win, not against their discipline, not against their composure. Rage still burned inside him, but it was mixed with something else now: exhaustion and shame. He lowered his fists slowly. Marcus spoke softly, his voice carrying a quiet strength. "You don't have to keep doing this. We're not your enemies. You don't need to prove yourself by hurting others. The only fight worth winning is the one against your own pride. The words lingered in the cool night air. Malik added, we never wanted to embarrass you. We just wanted peace. It's not too late to change. For the first time, the leader's expression softened. His fists unclenched, his shoulders sagged. He looked at the ground, unable to meet their eyes. Without another word, he turned and walked away, his friends following silently. Marcus and Malik stood together in the quiet street, the tension slowly melting away. Malik exhaled deeply. Do you think he'll stop now? Marcus gave a small nod. Maybe. Or maybe he just needs time. But I think he finally understands. The following Monday at school, something unexpected happened. The leader of the bullies walked past Marcus and Malik in the hallway. For the first time, he didn't sneer, didn't mutter, didn't glare. He just walked by in silence. It wasn't friendship, but it was peace. And for the twins, that was enough. Over the next few weeks, life at school truly changed. The bullies faded into the background, no longer the source of fear or control. The attention shifted toward something more positive: students gathering in the park after school to learn from Marcus and Malik. What had started as a small group of curious kids grew into a circle of friends who wanted to practice self-defense, learn discipline, and find confidence. Marcus and Malik never called themselves teachers, but their actions spoke louder than any title. They showed how to stand with dignity, how to breathe calmly under pressure, how to walk away from anger without feeling weak. Their group laughed together, practiced moves, and encouraged one another. The twins had unknowingly built a safe place for others, a place where strength meant something more than fists. Even teachers noticed. One afternoon, the gym teacher approached them and said, "You two have done more than I ever could in showing these students what respect looks like. I'm proud of you." The twins thanked him politely, their humility never changing. At home, their parents eventually learned parts of the story, not every detail, but enough to understand. Their father smiled with pride when Marcus explained how they never started fights but stood their ground with honor. Their mother hugged them tightly, whispering, "I'm proud you chose peace over anger." For Marcus and Malik, the journey had been difficult, but it had shaped them. They had faced fear, stood against hatred, and shown others that true strength doesn't come from hurting people but from choosing not to. They knew the world would always have challenges, and there would always be people who tried to bring others down. But they also knew that together, with their bond, their training, and their calm hearts, they could face anything. On the last day of the school year, as the sun set and the air buzzed with excitement for summer, the twins sat side by side on a park bench. Children practiced the simple drills they had taught, laughing and cheering. Older students watched with admiration, remembering the days when the twins had first walked into school quietly, unsure of their place. Malik turned to Marcus and said, "Do you ever think about how it all started? Just us trying to fit in, trying to avoid trouble. Now look at us." Marcus smiled faintly. "It started with trouble. But it ended with something better. Sometimes the hardest moments give us the chance to show who we really are." Malik nodded, his eyes soft with thought. "And who we are is enough." The two brothers sat in silence for a while, watching the golden glow of the sunset spread across the field. They didn't need applause or recognition. They didn't need to prove themselves anymore. Their story was no longer about bullies or fights. It was about resilience, patience, and honor. Marcus and Malik knew one truth above all: strength with dignity would always be stronger than anger with fists. And that truth would stay with them forever. The twins didn't see him that day, but they sensed the unease. They knew trouble might return, and they remained ready. Yet they also felt stronger than ever, not just in their bodies, but in their hearts. They had faced fear, they had stood their ground, and now they were teaching others to do the same. As the sun set that evening, Marcus turned to Malik and said, "You know, maybe this is why we were brought here. Not just to survive, but to show others another way. Malik smiled faintly, the golden light reflecting in his eyes. Maybe so. Whatever happens, we'll face it together. And with that quiet promise, the twins carried on, their bond unshakable, their discipline their shield. The story of Marcus and Malik was no longer just about being bullied, it was about becoming an example of strength with honor.